Well, when it comes to the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, I've been with you from the beginning trying to make sense of all this. And with me again is Navigator Dan Tzros from U.S. Marketplace, who is here to give us an update on Obamacare and how we're doing here in Georgia. Good morning, Dan. Glad to have you.
Good morning, Doc. Thanks for having me on your show today.
So, wow, what a difference a year makes almost, So give us some stats. How many signups are there today?
Well, I was fortunate enough to listen to Ralph Hudgens, our Department of Insurance Commissioner, speak at the Georgia Association of Health Underwriters Convention in Savannah last week.
Wow, that's exciting me already.
Yes, and he gave some stats saying that we had 300,000 enrolled in Georgia, 83% have paid their premium, and of that 83%, 96.5% were eligible for some form of subsidy. So I think Georgians are taking advantage of the Affordable Care Act.
Wow, let's talk about that. That's been in the news. 2 court cases, one upholding and one striking down subsidies for these federal plans.
Yep, we have some conflicting court cases, and one was the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, and then 2 hours later, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. And basically what they are saying is that if you are a state exchange, you are eligible for a subsidy, but if you are a state with a federal exchange, you are not.
So what are you hearing out there? How's it affecting what you're doing?
No change.
No change.
Nope,
whatsoever.
Because the media also says that there will be no change. It will probably elevate to the Supreme Court, and they have already made their decisions. So the law firms that I've seen give reports on this basically say stay tuned.
How long could this take?
Oh, I would say through 2015.
So right now the subsidies will be in place.
Yes.
And you're not having any pushback on that at this point.
Nope. In regard to subsidies, I think one of the big things people need to be aware of is when they applied for their insurance on the marketplace, if they had to submit information about financials for that subsidy, if there were any inconsistencies, healthcare.gov is now catching up with the inconsistencies, and hundreds and thousands of letters are going out at the end of July, which is past, and August, asking for verification.
And so what are people having to do to verify?
They may have to submit documentation such as a marriage certificate, adoption papers, anything that may verify dependent status or income. As you know, the income that is reported is typically verified by the hub, which cross-reference with Department of Labor, Social Security, and other resources the government has to verify what you report is true.
And when we say report, we're talking income tax returns?
Yes.
So what if you don't file an income tax return?
Then you are not going to be able to be verified at the hub, and you will probably be requested additional insurance or additional documentation.
And is that going to be a problem? Are they going to deny previous or current medical therapy? Or do you have any idea?
I don't have a sense for that. I do believe that since we're in the early stages of the Affordable Care Act and implementation with the subsidies, that you're going to find a lot more leniency as we move forward, where people are going to be given the benefit of the doubt and opportunity to produce the documentation. Of course, they have 90 days once notified.
Let's talk about enrollment. There's a new enrollment period coming up. When does that begin?
Wow. Do you want to talk about enrollment?
Oh, wow.
Oh,
yes.
Wow. Let's talk about enrollment.
Yeah.
Let's talk about...
Isn't that the whole discussion is enrollment? It's going to be. I'm going to change the subject matter on you shortly, but go on.
Okay. Well, we have open enrollment starting November 15th, and that will go through February 15th, 2015. That is for your federal facilitated marketplace in the state of Georgia, and as well as nationally all the state exchanges and federal exchanges. You also have, starting on October 15th, the Medicare enrollment period, which runs through December 7th. And historically, this time of year, you have all your companies with their open enrollment for January 1st renewal. So to compound that, you also have...
You can compound that? I mean,
Yes.
because I got to tell you, this is going to be an exciting year. Headed into 2015 with an employer mandate.
I'm very interested in seeing how the industry responds with the workforce to accommodate all the needs in open enrollment in a very short amount of time.
But aren't we already doing this? I mean,
No.
don't we already have people there facilitating enrollment?
Well, we have people facilitating enrollment, but what has happened in the industry for individual plans, if a person wanted to purchase health insurance, they could purchase it at any time, and they had pre-existing exclusions, and they had to fill out medical documentation. Now, with the Affordable Care Act, you can only apply for individual insurance through the open enrollment period unless you have what we call a qualifying event.
Oh, okay, so let's talk about that. Let's educate our listeners. What is an event that could occur that would allow someone to get on the insurance exchange outside of the enrollment period?
Well, first let's use another term. Outside
Okay.
of the open enrollment period, it's called the special enrollment period.
Wow.
So this year it's April
It's
1st.
special.
This year it's April 1st through November 14th. And during that special enrollment period, your common trigger for a qualifying event would be a marriage, birth, adoption, or placement for foster care, becoming a citizen, national, or lawfully present individual, if you make a permanent move. Now, a permanent move could be from one state to another,
Okay.
or if you, and I just learned this in May, if you move from, say, Bartow County down to Chatham County, and the county you move from to has a different network of carriers, then that would be a qualifying event. You could reapply for coverage in a different carrier. If you leave the jail, if you're no longer incarcerated, is a qualifying event. And I've consulted with navigators. They need
Yes.
to be contacting their wardens to see those people that are released so they can help them get insurance. And also, if you lose other health coverage, that's if you leave your employer. Of course, if you're over 20 people, you can get COBRA. But if you leave your employer and are not eligible for COBRA or choose not to elect it, you have 60 days to go on to the federal marketplace if you would like to look
And I
at
tell
a
you,
subsidy.
this one is big, I would think. I think this exception would be a large one. And that's good that people know, because I think some people may not leave their job because they fear they won't have coverage. But the rules allow people to get on the exchange now.
Up to 60 days. What I'm amazed at on a daily basis, just yesterday I had 3 calls of people that were not paying attention. They are trying to get individual insurance. And of course, what we have to tell them is, unless you meet one of those criteria, you have to wait till November 15th. And they're like, what? Because it's not how we used to do business.
Well, it
It's
sounds
new.
like somebody may find themselves or try to be incarcerated, so they or get married or do something kind of crazy to get on health care insurance. Again, I see this as a flaw in the system still.
And it will be ironed out as we move along. We're still in a 2, 3 to 5 year transition with the Affordable Care Act. Not all this is going to be straightened out in 1 year.
Well, I tell you, there's a lot to this. So, what other interesting findings have you discovered in this rollout of Obamacare?
Well, I think what's really interesting is that we have so many people who have taken advantage of it just in Georgia. When you look at 300,000 plus, and you have so many people receiving subsidies. And what concerns me is the backlash that may happen to some of the political groups if they move forward with trying to take away the subsidies. That's going to be a real problem. So that, I think, is worth watching, and how the public responds to that and how the tide may turn in support of the Affordable Care, because people have something now they did not have before. The other thing that I'm finding very interesting is our state, through House Bill 943, and I've talked about this before, which our legislature passed, where a state agency is unable to receive federal funds to help with the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
That passed as of July 1st. And as you know, University of Georgia had 12 navigators, and they were receiving federal funding. They're out of the business as of September 1st. They have released their 12 navigators, and they are unable to apply for the new grant money that's coming through as of September 1st. And that grant money should be awarded The awardees will be announced on September 8th.
So, but aren't there other navigators? How many navigators are there now? You were the first. How many
I
are there now?
was the first, and I've already
You're
renewed.
number one.
And they didn't tell me that my license went through, my renewal. I had to look it up. So with that, as a navigator,
Well,
let me answer your
there's so
question,
much
Doc.
more,
Let
yeah.
me
Okay.
let me answer your question.
Wrap it up there.
You typically had about 32 navigators between SEEDCO, which is a consortium of 14 agencies, and University of Georgia. The majority of your navigators come from your federal qualified health centers located throughout the state and community health centers.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I want to address that when we come back, so stay tuned. We're talking to Navigator Dan Tzros from U.S. Marketplace. You're listening to Doc Talk on 640 WGST.